Yeah. From the BART train to a tour bus, still the same game except I'm pulling more sluts, more butts, more bucks, never giving.
Hey, what is up, guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Thank you for stopping by today. A lot of interesting things to talk about today. So we'll just go through it one by one. The first thing I want to start out with is a new set of photographs that were sent in by a viewer who is actually quite ecstatic over these photographs because he believes, and after reviewing them, I can understand why, that he has captured something that is not a plane, is not, we'll just say, anything that the public knows about. So let's just go quickly through all of these sequential photographs here. And we'll start back off at the first. Alright, so this was sent over by a man named Daniel, who says that he believes that he has caught an actual craft of some sort on camera. He says that it was honestly undeniable. It looked nothing like a balloon, barely looks like anything he's ever seen that's man-made. He said that it had a trapezoid shape and was floating beneath the clouds about a mile or two from his backyard in Southgate, California. He further said that it was stationary for the most part, but began moving when his brothers flashed their phone camera flashlight in its direction, almost as if it was reacting to the light being shined at it. He said that it also moved side to side on a dime and did so in an extremely fluid way. Now, unfortunately, he was not able to get any film footage due to it being so dark out. So what he did was he began to increase the exposure settings on his Nikon P900 camera to see how he could get the best shot of this thing in this low light. Now, what you're seeing here are progression shots. So we have a faraway shot here, we have the object sitting in the clouds. Here we are after he's zoomed in. Again, we see the object, it looks to be obstructed by the clouds, a little blurry. Let's go to the next one. Again, another shot, these were taken in progression. We'll go ahead and zoom in on this one, where it's still blurry because the craft apparently was moving through the clouds. And at this point, he was able to capture the most stunning photographs of them all, after he changed the photograph and exposure setting to a 2-second exposure time in the camera, which allowed the camera to absorb more light, creating a sharper picture, which also changed the color a little bit. So here's the first image, where he is attempting to zoom in on this thing, and again, it's blurry, but we're starting to see a shape here, a definite shape. And we'll go ahead and zoom in here. Yeah, definitely starting to take a very sharp shape, and you can see the definition of this thing. You can see the way it's put together, we'll say. So let's go to the next one. And this one is probably, I'd have to say, the best out of all of them because we actually have a clear shot, perfectly focused, and as we zoom in here, this is what we have. Now, he said that this thing appeared to him to be sort of a trapezoid-like shape, and he actually sent me a photograph where he traced the lines of this thing just to give us sort of a three-dimensional, almost what you would think of a pyramid shape. Because this thing is so dark, we're not able to see a lot of definition. So you're seeing that image here where he has highlighted using red lines what the actual shape of this thing was to his naked eye. And it becomes very clear that whatever this is, it's not a plane. It does not look like any drone that I've seen. And we'll go to the very last photograph, which is what you're seeing here as the object began moving out of sight. He panned the camera. We see the power lines in the foreground here. The thing began moving away after they flashed the camera light at it. And we'll go ahead and zoom in one more time. And here we are. The thing reacted to the camera flash and immediately started flying in the opposite direction. Almost as if, obviously it knew that it was being watched. And so I guess the big question here is this alien in nature, or is this something being utilized by our government? So unfortunately, we can't make a determination, but we do have these amazing photographs. Again, captured in low light. However, thankfully, we have a viewer with a high-powered camera and who understood how to take photographs in low light and how to work the exposure settings, which is paramount. If you see something in the sky and you know that your normal cell phone is just going to give you a black screen if you try to record it or take pics. So, amazing stuff. Big thanks to Daniel for sending this over. Anybody located in Southgate, California, seen this thing in the last couple of days, be sure to send me an email. I'd really appreciate it. Now on to another UFO sighting that has just hit the web, discovered by our friend StreetCap1, who also runs a YouTube channel. We've mentioned him many times before. Be sure to head over and check him out. He was monitoring the live feed of some of these Mexican volcanoes, and like many times before, captured something very strange happening near it. So check this out. Alright, so again, this was recorded off of a well-known website called webcamsdemexico.com, and they give you all of these awesome live feeds to the various volcanoes in the area. And many times before, we have captured UFOs flying near these things, interacting with them, flying down inside of them, and vice versa. And from everything I've seen, there is definitely a reason why these things are interacting with our volcanoes, whether it's to prevent them from erupting, whether there's another reason, maybe there's something down there that we don't know about, a secret entrance to something underground. We can only speculate. But what we have here is a object that appears over the horizon, heading towards the camera at an amazing speed. At one point, looks to brighten up instantaneously. We have this bright glow to it, and it almost looks like the sun or the moon, depending on the time of day or night, approaches the camera, flies overhead, and out of sight. So it wouldn't be the first time we've seen these orbs. Some have said this looks like a plane, possibly, although others have said that this thing was moving way too fast to be a plane. And at no time do we see any parts of a plane, any wings, any flashing lights. Many of you know that airliners have many flashing lights, and this just doesn't feature that. So the jury's still out. Amazing stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to check out StreetCap1's channel. He does great work. And lastly today, we have some more anomalous findings on one of our favorite topics, and that is our moon. And we're going to feature 3 different things that we found today, or that were featured and sent to us by viewers. Some of these have been captured in satellite images from the lunar orbiter. Others have been found in official Apollo photographs. But all of these you can find on Google Earth. So here we are. We're on Google Earth, the software that you can download. It's free. It's a pretty cool tool. And we'll go ahead and zoom in to this first object. And of course, I'll put the coordinates to this down below. So here we are, just above a set of 2 craters. And if you haven't seen it yet, I want you to notice what looks like a set of tracks coming up and out of the crater edge, and at the end of said tracks, we see what looks like an object. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And this is actually really amazing to me, because it's pretty much plain as day. This is nowhere near any of the Apollo sites where the rover drove around on the surface. This is in a completely untouched area of the moon. And it would be one thing if we just had this set of what looks like tracks here, but it's another when you have tracks that are not only coming up out of the crater rim and curving once reaching the top of the crater, but to then have an object right at the end of these tracks, at which point the tracks stop, just like you would see if any other vehicle was driving on the sand. That's pretty devastating evidence, in my opinion. And we'll give you some close-up shots here, spin this thing around a little bit. But it doesn't get any clearer than this. And as we zoom in on this object here, it would appear to have some three-dimensional shape to it. And this is certainly not the first time we have seen these anomalous, unknown tracks on the moon, and I'll show you some photographs here in a second of these things. But I want you to look at these tracks coming up from this darkened crater bottom, and I want you to notice here how they perfectly correlate with the shape of the crater edge here and the natural terrain. And it's just as if you were actually to watch a vehicle coming up a hill out of a crater. We have this straight line, and we have this curve up here at the top, which signifies that the vehicle has reached the top of the hill and is now on the flat surface. So it perfectly matches. And it would seem that the lunar orbiter, which is what snapped this picture, just happened to capture one of these unknown lunar vehicles making its way out of a crater. And this also connects to the fact that we have found craters on the moon that are bottomless. And NASA even admits to this. There are craters on the moon that do not have bottoms. They have openings that lead underground. And conveniently, we have captured objects coming out of these craters many times in the past. We recently featured video footage showing an object flying down towards one of these craters during the Apollo moon mission. And so, if you can offer me an alternative explanation, I'm all ears. But this is an amazing finding sent in by a viewer, so big thanks for that. So now we're going to zoom back out and we're going to go over to the Apollo 15 landing site. And if you've ever used Google Earth before, not only are you able to visit the site, but it also offers high-resolution photographs snapped by the astronauts at the various locations during their EVAs. And so we're going to go and click on a specific picture entitled The Rover and the View of Elbow Crater. So this is when they drove the rover and they snapped a shot of Elbow Crater. So we'll go ahead and zoom in here. And so there's a couple of things captured in the darkness of space here above the moon. It's no secret that the astronauts were being watched while they were on the moon. And yet again, we have more evidence of this. So we'll just go around here and I'll point out to you some of the things that we have found here. Here is the first one, where we have a faint view of a couple of objects sitting in the darkness here. Can't really make them out, but we can make them out just enough. And you're seeing a zoomed in shot here. So let's zoom back out. And what was really interesting to me was a set of 3 lights stacked on top of each other in a perfect formation, hovering in the sky as you're seeing here. So let's go ahead and zoom in on these things. And if you're possibly thinking that this is just Orion's belt, it's not. This was taken in a different location than Orion's belt. Furthermore, the cameras on the moon could not capture the stars. Many people ask, well, why can't you see stars in Apollo photographs? That must mean the moon landings were fake. Incorrect. The reason you cannot see stars on the moon is that the moon's surface is 1,000 times brighter when the sun is shining on it. And because of this, the camera's exposure settings had to be set to compensate. And because of that, the camera was not sensitive enough to pick up the faintly lit stars in the background. It's photography 101. Alright, so there's nothing sinister going on here. So whatever these objects are, they had to be much closer to the camera and to the surface for them to be reflective enough to be picked up on the camera. And to prove to you once more that there are more of these light formations sitting above them while they walked on the moon, we'll go ahead and move over to another area just down a ways, where again I'll show you some more. Well, here is another object that we see on the way, where again, sitting above the moon in the background, being faintly picked up by the camera. And we'll go over to this hill here, where once again we see another set of lights sitting on top of one another. This time we only have 2. So there were a lot of these things above the moon, a lot of strange things, and we've featured this throughout the years on this channel. Craft of all different makes, sizes, shapes that have been captured in space, above the moon, above Mars, you name it. And this is just another example, but notice how both of these sets of formations are sitting in vertical positions, whether it be the one with the 3 or what we're seeing here with these 2 orbs. So it's very, very strange. Check it out, Apollo 15. And Before we end today's video, I forgot to mention I was going to show you guys some other lunar photographs that also feature these strange tracks on the moon that do not belong to us, which goes back to our first finding that we showed you guys of the object coming up out of the crater. So here are some photographs. This is a famous one, which has been said to have been some sort of mining vehicle, snapped on the moon by the lunar orbiter. Here is the zoomed out shot, but you can clearly still see the tracks. Let's go ahead and zoom back in here. And again, a lot of the times you will see these things moving uphill, which is obviously something that simple rocks don't do. Try to give you the best shot of this structure here that's casting quite a long shadow behind it. So whatever it is, it's large. And you'll also notice to the right here, we have another set of tracks, moving in a straight line before curving off to the right here. Now we'll go to another famous photograph, again showing more unknown tracks moving across the surface, this time displaying tracks similar to what you would see from the rover, where we actually have two lines here. And you can see this thing stretching miles across the lunar surface. Here's a quick picture of one of the Apollo landing sites, and I just want you to compare these. These are the tracks that were made by the rover, and you can see there are two distinct lines from the four wheels on the rover. So remember that, and let's go back to this photograph, and again, we see the same two distinct lines stretching across an untouched part of the moon that we have never, well, publicly have never landed at, but obviously someone or something has been there. We'll go to another shot here, where again we see another set of tracks, even clearer than the last image, and it's clearly two separate tracks from the same vehicle. So again, it's one of those situations that we have here where it's just obvious. Name me a rock or a boulder that leaves a set of tracks that move in a straight line miles across the lunar surface that exhibit the same exact type of tire tracks that you would find from the rover or from any vehicle on Earth moving through the sand. And, I'm all ears. Lastly, I'll show you a Mars photograph, where again we see a couple more sets of these strange tracks moving in a straight line, also exhibiting characteristics of a two-wheel or four-wheel vehicle. And again, an area of Mars untouched by the rover. So I think we have featured some pretty undeniable things in today's video, particularly with these lunar photographs. And I just want to, again, give a big thanks to everybody who has continued to scour the thousands of lunar photographs, the orbiter photos, and I ask that you keep sending them in. And I think we're going to discover some pretty amazing things over 2017. So thank you guys for stopping by today. Let me know what you think about the object in Mexico. If you've seen what was captured over Southgate, California, of course, send me an email. And as always, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. And I'll see you guys back here in just a bit.